I remember when I was a seminarian in Rome, they were explaining to us the changes in the Mass after Vatican II. And, and in an effort to show us the hermeneutic of continuity between the old Mass and the new Mass, how the essentials were actually the same, and that the Mass was the Mass. And the Mass that I would have experienced in Rome oftentimes was in Latin. We rotated the Mass. It was 2 or 3 days a week in Latin, 2 days a week in Spanish, and then in Italian. It was rotated. And the priests, whenever they were celebrating their private masses, because as a community there was only ever one priest celebrating Mass unless it was a solemn occasion. So our community Mass had one priest. And then every day, every priest in the house, about 100 of them, would celebrate his own private Mass. And the priests that celebrated their private Masses always celebrated the Mass in Latin, on the side chapels or in different oratories around the seminary. And I do remember a conversation about, a bishop that objected to the old Mass, and his objections were met. Well, look, how can you object? What are you objecting to? Look, what is the exact reason you're objecting to the Novus Ordo? Can you let us know? I remember one of the discussions where, look, the canon of the Roman canon, look, it's there in the new Mass. It's Eucharistic Prayer 1 now. So what is your objections? The consecration is exactly the same. The form and the matter is the same. Yada, yada. The whole explanation about why people needed to accept the new Mass. I mean, there was never, I remember in the 1990s, I never questioned liturgical reform, never thought a thing about it. I thought that the new Mass was beautiful. I didn't know any different. I'd never seen an old Mass, the Vetus Order. I'd never seen it, never experienced it, had no idea. And I just accepted the new order of the Mass as it was, and didn't question it and didn't think anything about it. Fast forward to the 5th of January 2023, and that conversation, the Vatican official explaining to an archbishop, I'm not sure if they were explaining it to Archbishop Lefebvre or not, or some other bishop in the church. That conversation about, well, look, the Roman canon, it's there in the new Mass, you can use it. That conversation, it just came back in my mind, this 30-year-old conversation. We had the funeral of a pope, a Pope Emeritus, when he died, but he was a pope. He was the Vicar of Christ, the successor of St. Peter. We had the funeral of a pope, the Bishop of Rome, of the Latin Church, and at his funeral, the Vatican bishops were unable to use the Roman canon at his funeral. I'd love to know, did Pope Benedict expressly ask for Eucharistic Prayer 3 to be used instead of the Roman canon at his funeral? Maybe so as not to, we could quash the debate very quickly. Did Cardinal Ratzinger want this or not? Pope Benedict, did he want this at his funeral or didn't he? For now, we can just assume that this is what the Vatican prepared for his funeral. That they couldn't use the Roman canon at the funeral of Pope Benedict. Was it a message to send out, it can be used, but we're not using it. Or we're moving on, or what's the story here? This year, the Vatican will try for the last time to abolish the traditional Latin Mass. They'll never really be able to do it completely. I mean, they'll try to get rid of it, but it's going to be a very tricky task for them to return us to the new Mass. And people are saying, oh, these are rumors, Robert, this is not going to happen. Where are you getting your information from Rome? I would like people to remember that there was a letter that Pope Francis wrote, or I don't know if it's Cardinal, there was a letter with Traditionis Custodes which said, in due time, to give people due time to return to the new rite. It's there at the last paragraph of the letter. So they're talking about returning to the new Mass. Now, so many people in the church have grown up with the old Mass. To say that they needed time to return to what? To something that they never knew? I don't know where Rome is getting this. They seem to be so hell-bent, and I'm using that word intentionally, on destroying the sacred. On destroying what generations held sacred is sacred to us. And I just find it incredible what's happening in the church. And there was a quote going around by Alice von Hildebrand, and it says, regarding the traditional Latin Mass, she says, the devil hates the ancient Mass. He hates it because it is the most perfect reformulation of all the teachings of the church. And we live in this very, very, very strange time in the church where faith and morals can be debated, and there can be discussion, and you can have your faith and morals and I can have my faith and morals, like that. We don't have clear direction on teaching on what is faith and morals. What is the purpose of sexual expression? What is the purpose of marriage? What is the purpose of family? What is the purpose of our sexuality? What is the purpose of worship? What is the purpose of the Mass? What is the purpose? So many things, they've been thrown up in the air, especially when it comes to faith and morals. I never thought I would live to see this. People will say, well, look, there's always been failures and there's always been these problems in the church, and how, sure, look at Rome, the gay mafia and the pink mafia and the Vatican, which does exist. Why are you surprised that there is this? I didn't think it would ever come to what we're seeing now in the church, where you have bishops, the Flemish bishops and the German bishops. The Flemish bishops issued a prayer for the blessing of gay marriage, gay couples. And that's just the start. You start with that. You end up what you have in the Church of England. And now you have Penny Mordaunt today. She was asking for gay marriage, full gay marriage in the Church of England, because, when you start with the blessing, you have to move forward from there. And you might think, oh, Robert, you're very homophobic. Why are you against gay marriage? And why are you against this? And why are you against that? Well, I suppose I want the truth. I want to know what is the truth. I'm not against anything. I want to know what is true. What did God intend in creation? Why were we created? It's not being anti anything. If that's the purpose of human sexuality, then I want to know if that's true or not. Is there a truth we can align our lives to? Are we allowed to speak the truth? Is there a truth we're allowed to preach? Is there such a thing as faith and morals in Catholic teaching in the Catholic Church? What is the purpose of a man, a father? What is the purpose of a mother? These fundamental questions. What is gender anymore? If your child comes confused, Daddy, I want to be a girl, or I want to be a boy. Can you go out and buy me some dresses or some, I need hormones and sex change and all this. I mean, are we going to rush off and give in to this, what our children are asking for? Or are we going to say, hold on a second, you're a boy, you were born a boy, you're born a girl. There is such a thing as gender confusion, gender dysphoria. People can be confused. There's lots of things that people are confused about in this life. Do we just give in to the confusion, or do we lead them to the truth? I think it's a sensible thing to ask, what is the truth? What is the truth we need to align ourselves? Because it seems in the church today, the truth is anything that you subjectively think is true. Well, your truth is good as my truth, Robert. I live my truth and you live your truth. There doesn't exist truth. And that seems to be certainly what is happening in the church. I mean, it is quite incredible. I mean, and especially on the topic of abortion, of the right to life. I mean, the debate on whether you should have a right to live, the debate whether there is a human life in the womb. I mean, that's a fundamental right to, the right to exist. Nobody comes into this world except through the womb of their mother. We should be encouraging and giving. In this era of the world where we're so advanced, especially in Europe in the first world, we're so advanced. We've so much means, we've so much money, we've so much social problems, and yet we can't encourage the child in the womb to be safe, and to encourage the mother, support the mother, give them a social net. No, we'll just say, no, here's a pill, you take that. You don't need the child. Your career is more important. You don't need to be lumbered with that. And we see a pope appointing not just one, two pro-abortion people to the Pontifical Academy of Life. I mean, and one of them, he says, well, there was no other woman with her level of qualification, or I don't know what he was saying. I mean, we can look up the quote there. It is quite bizarre, the reasons why we would do this. Do we stand for anything? That's why I asked the church to give us the truth. Ask us, what is true? Tell us, what is the truth? Christ didn't come to give confusion. Christ came to give us the truth, the way, the truth, and the life. What is the truth? Bishops, priests, cardinals, pope, what is the truth? Can you tell us? What is the truth? What is the Catholic teaching? Is this like an outdated thing that is published in the 1980s and really you don't believe in this anymore? We saw this with a priest in Kerry who came out, a priest in Kerry who came out practically quoting this, and his bishop slaps him down for quoting this. The truth hurts sometimes. You tell an alcoholic you're an alcoholic, they'll get annoyed. If they don't want to hear the truth, they will get annoyed. You tell the truth, sometimes you will annoy people. You'll pull their consciences. You'll ask them to question. Always tell the truth with charity, with love. But the truth sometimes has to be told. Who's going to preach it? Who's going to tell it? Who's going to teach it? Especially to children. What are we going to teach them on faith and morals? It seems like the Catholic Church has hung up their responsibility to teach the Catholic faith and to teach what is our faith and what are the morals we're supposed to hold. It seems like Catholics today are ashamed to say we believe that marriage is between a man and a woman. I mean, Muslims are not afraid to say we believe a marriage can be between a man and a couple of women. They're not afraid to say that. They'll openly say that. Their prophet had a few wives, an underage girl at one stage. They're not afraid to say that. And they're not ashamed of that. That's their religion. Why are Catholics afraid to say, look, us Catholics only believe that marriage is between a man and a woman? Or is there something wrong with our church that we're not able to say basic things anymore? We believe in the right to life from conception to natural birth. I mean, if we believe in something, why are we pandering to those that fundamentally don't believe what we hold? Especially people that we point to the Pontifical Academy of Life. They don't believe. They don't believe. They play lip service. They don't believe. And now we're coming back to the Mass. The Mass of the Ages. The Mass that is so controversial. This is the Mass that they have tried to destroy for the last 60 years, basically. We were told the Mass that the new Mass is the same as the old. Why would you not accept the new? Well, I think the funeral of Pope Benedict is a prime example of how they hoodwinked us. Oh, the Roman canon is there. It's the same Mass. Look, you can use the Roman canon. Well, why wasn't it used? Can somebody give us an explanation? Did Pope Benedict expressly ask for Eucharistic prayer 3 to be used? Or who decided in the Vatican that the Roman canon wasn't going to be used at the Pope's funeral? I'd just like to know. I'd like to know, was it Pope Benedict's decision or was it the Vatican's decision? And if it was the Vatican's decision, why? Why break with tradition? Why break with practically 1,500 years of tradition on a specific prayer? Why are they against that specific prayer to be said at a funeral? There's Roraticelli released the notes from 1986 when John Paul II was debating about the allowing the old mass to be said again. This was in the height of the negotiations between Archbishop Lefebvre and Rome. And there's been this back and forth for years on can we have the old mass, can we not? And Pope Benedict was the only a pope that came, and he gave a little peace to the situation and allowed both forms to be used. And it made sensible sense. It made sense. If the old mass and the new mass, as we were told as seminarians in Rome, are the same things, essentially the same, then we should be allowed to experience both. And now we have a pope who is very liberal on faith and morals. Doesn't allow any type of discussion, and if you have different faith and morals, you can still be Catholic. So you can be the President of the United States and have your own faith and morals and marry people of the same sex, which he did, and pass legislation on abortion, which he did, and pass funding for abortion, which he did. You can do that, Mr. President, and you can also come to communion at Catholic Church, because you can have your faith and morals. But God forbid traditional Catholics can have the vetus ordo of the Mass, the traditional Latin Mass. Oh, no, you can't have that. Oh, no. They'll be very rigid on one side on getting rid of a Mass that really represented the faith and morals of the Catholic Church, and pushing the Novus Ordo, which seems to be celebrated in a myriad of ways in different countries. We see every single liturgical abuse you can imagine. So my question is, what is going on in Rome? What is going on in Rome? And it is up to us laity, because the Vatican thinks that the laity of 2023 are the same as the laity of 1971. We are not. You won't hoodwink us again. You won't con us again. You won't pull the wool over laity again. Certainly not now. Not that we've seen the Ted McCarrick scandals. Not that we've seen what goes on in the Vatican. Not that we've seen the Bertoni jacuzzi. Not that we've seen the cover-up of Father Marcial by Cardinal Sodanum. Not that we've seen the corruption again and again and again and again at the top of the Vatican and with bishops around the world. Sorry to say this, but we are not taking it. We will not take it again. And I can assure you there's a lot of Catholic support in the United States against this demonic focus, on destroying the ancient rites of the Church, reverence for the Eucharist. Demonic focus. Somebody was saying that in this new apostolic constitution, what Cardinal Roche wants to do is to make communion on the hand the universal norm in the Roman Rite. Isn't that amazing if that's true? That communion on the hand would be the new normal practice of distributing communion in the Roman Rite. Can you imagine? From something that was an insult that John Paul II never did, that we would arrive under the pontificate of Pope Francis to a possible new norm for distributing communion, that it would be only on the hand, recommended to all the bishop conferences around the world. That's telling, isn't it? It'll be time to see. And it is time for laity to stand up for the faith. You have been robbed. You have been robbed. And again, I'm not against the Novus Ordo. I think the Novus Ordo is beautiful. If it was said with reverence and with beauty. it can be done. And in certain countries, it has been done, especially in Asia. If you experience it in Asia, it is said with a lot of love and reverence. And our Lord is present in that Mass, body, blood, soul, and divinity. So I'm not here to divide the church against one rite against the other. I'm there asking the question, what is the demonic focus on destroying the old rite and removing it and not allowing it to see, and not because it shines a light on the destruction of faith and morals in the church. It shines a light. It shines a light on what we are doing in the church. That's what the old order of the Mass does. That's what, Alice von Hildebrand, she puts it very aptly. So this is the last stand, I would say. This is the last cry. This is the last chance that Rome has to change. And Pope Francis, he'll maneuver things. He'll stay on a couple of years to ensure that he's able to appoint as many cardinals as he can before he chooses when he can have the conclave. It is what it is, guys. I suppose the question we're asking, Laity are asking, why is there not clarity on faith and morals? But there seems to be very, very clear clarity on the direction of the liturgy. A liturgy that is man-centered. A liturgy that oftentimes is not leading people to Christ. I mean, I don't understand this. I honestly don't understand this. We seem to be creating a new Christ to fit the morals and standards of this world, instead of aligning ourselves to the teaching of the church that has been handed on to us for generations and generations and generations. So let's see what happens. But I would ask Laity, don't stand for what they're trying to do, is to destroy the faith. Don't stand for it. Don't stand for it. Rome, these traditions, in a sense, yes, the Mass has changed over generations. It has prayers have been added, the glory has been moved around. If you study the liturgy has changed over generations, but never in the history of the Roman Rite, never, ever in the history of the Roman Rite has the Mass been so radically changed in such a short period of time. This has literally never happened, and now they've spent 50 years trying to destroy the Vetus Ordo, and it's not going to succeed. The laity won't stand for it. It's up for us to demand that the church return to teach the faith. Why bother being a bishop or a priest? Stand for the faith. Stand for what you should believe in. Don't give us the world, because the world we have in leaps and bounds. We have as much of the world's culture as you want. Give us Christ. Give us what he taught, not what the world is offering. Stand for Christ. Don't stand for the world. Anyway, God bless. Take care. Bye-bye.